Should you eat less when you have PCOS? So this is what this this video will be about. And I'm Cheryl. I'm a nutritionist, yoga teacher, movement teacher. And I'm also, if you're listening to this and you're diagnosed with PCOS, I'm diagnosed with PCOS. And that's kind of what's got me become very interested in nutrition because I was diagnosed many years ago. I feel like I'm so old. I was diagnosed when I was 20. I'm now 46, and I've had quite good results by using food and movement and relaxation techniques to help me to kind of overcome the symptoms, because PCOS doesn't just disappear. It's still with me, but it's manageable. So I've used these things to help me to manage PCOS. So the question, should you eat less when you have PCOS? And it's a difficult thing because it's kind of what we're being told to do, isn't it? We're being told to eat less, and you may have been doing a lot of research and looking at things, and you may find that a lot of the suggestions for you would be to eat less. And it may be that you are quite far ahead in the journey with PCOS, and you've probably tried lots of different things, and you have done that. You've been eating less, and you're not really seeing very many results. So this is what this is going to be about anyway. This is what this video, this audio, this is what I'm going to be talking about. So many a time we're told you're eating too much, just go on a diet. And that's what, for many of us, that's what we're doing. I've done that in the past as well. After either reading things or looking up things or being told that by doctors as well. Because when you're gaining weight, which many of us with PCOS, that is the case, isn't it? We're trying everything and we just keep gaining weight, and it feels like we're not even eating anything. And you're just like, wow, I don't really eat very much, so why am I gaining all this weight? And then, you're just told, well, you're eating too much, and you're just like so confused because you're thinking, well, I don't really eat very much, so I don't understand why this is happening. So yeah, that's what most of us are doing, really. We're just doing that, we're going on diets and not eating very much at all, because that's what we believe is the problem, and really that's not the problem. And so yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, about what we tend to do and what we're doing, and just seeing if that is the right thing. Really, are you doing the right thing? So what we're told to do, so it's a difficult one. This is a hard one because I get quite frustrated by this, especially, when I was diagnosed with PCOS in the 90s, seems so long ago, but when I was diagnosed with PCOS in the 90s, there wasn't all this information that we have now. So, there wasn't the internet. I had to go and seek my information by books, and also trying to get answers from doctors and things. And many a time I was told that I needed to lose weight. And, I wouldn't say that I had a huge issue with weight. I think my issue, like many other women with PCOS, is that I tend to carry more of my weight around the stomach. And you might find that that's the case for you too. And so, see that you're probably more of an apple shape. First thing that's kind of been told to you, that yes, you need to lose weight. And yeah, back then it was so frustrating. And so now fast forward onto 2023 when I'm recording this, and I go on a lot of things on, like Facebook groups and looking at things that are online. It's that thing again. And a lot of women are still being told by doctors as well that that's what they need to do. They just need to lose weight. Just lose weight and everything will be solved. And so that's the trap then, isn't it? That's what a lot of us start doing. And we start doing a lot of these diets. We start doing what we're told. And then we get very frustrated because we're not really getting the results, or we're trying our best to do these things and it's so hard to do it. And so I'll be talking a little bit more about this as we go on with the video, with the audio. So you do what you're told and you eat less. And so it's going to work in one or two ways. It's either that you're going to get results from eating less, or you'll have no results from eating less. And so obviously if you do, you eat less and you get these results, and you feel fantastic, you're feeling great. And it may be that you've given this thing long enough time as well, because results, it's not just going to be happening within days and weeks. With these kind of diets where, you need to be eating less, you need to be doing this for quite a long time. And for women with PCOS, it's quite difficult losing weight. It's not, you're probably going to find that it's going to be a lot longer than women that don't have PCOS. And that can be very difficult. But, if you are doing this and then you see the results, you feel the results, your PCOS symptoms are declining, yeah, it feels fantastic. But then there's that other side, like I've just said, where you eat less, you're seeing no results, and you're just absolutely miserable, because with eating less, you're not able to eat hardly anything. If you are doing that, if you are going down that road where you're hardly ever, you're hardly eating anything. And so this is really the results. Really, this is what's going to be happening. Do you want to be feeling great with so-called results, but then you're not eating very much to get that? Or then in the other sense, then it's about having no results and just feeling absolutely miserable. And so is this the right thing? Should you be doing this? Should you be eating less? Is this what you want really for, the rest of your life? Like I said, I'm now probably approaching 30 years now with PCOS. And if I had to eat less with this disease, I would be absolutely miserable. And I have done that. I have been through, there have been periods of my life where I have done these very restrictive diets, and it's absolutely miserable. And for me, that's not how I want to live my life. So that's something that you've got to ask yourself, really. Is this something that you should be doing? Is this something that you can cope with on long term? And eating less doesn't work for all PCOS sufferers. And why is that? Well, the reason is that we're just all different. We're not going to be able to do the same things, and you have to find what's going to work for you. What's worked for me as a PCOS, somebody diagnosed with PCOS, is not going to be exactly the same for you, for what's going to work for you as somebody diagnosed with PCOS. So yes, eating less, it's not going to work for all of us. This is what I get so annoyed with sometimes. It's just all this stuff that's just telling us all that we've got to be the same and we have to all work in the same way, and this is what you need to do. Don't go and do this. Do this diet. No. We're all so different. So you've got to find what's going to work for you. And eating less is most likely not going to work for you. And then for somebody else, it will. So you've just got to find what's going to work for you. But there's a big thing here as to why a lot of these diets and restrictive diets, why they're probably not working. If you've done this before and it's not worked, there's a big reason for this. And that reason is stress. Stress. It plays such a huge role when it comes to PCOS. And we're probably doing a lot to try and help ourselves to, either have, a regular menstrual cycle, and we're trying to do a lot to, to alleviate a lot of the symptoms that we're going through every day. And so we tend to be focusing a lot on what we call the sex hormones. We're trying to balance estrogen, progesterone, and the big one for a lot of PCOS sufferers is testosterone. Those are the things that we're trying to balance. But really, those are the sex hormones. but really we do need to be doing a lot with the stress hormones. The stress hormones play such a huge role when it comes to the sex hormones. And if we can balance the stress hormones, we can do a lot then by helping to balance the sex hormones, because the stress hormones and the sex hormones, they talk to each other. And so if you are following a lot of these kind of restrictive diets and then you're absolutely miserable, then the only thing that's going to be triggering is your stress hormones. And that's what we need to be trying our hardest to be removing. We want to be happy. We don't want to be stressed out by a diet. So eating less for a lot of women with PCOS is most likely going to make you miserable. And then if you are miserable, then we're switching on these stress hormones, and really we want to try and switch these off as much as possible. So eating less, really, that's not the problem, is it? That's not the issue. As I've addressed, eating less really isn't the issue. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, and maybe looking and making you think about maybe other things that you could be looking at. So you might be at the moment, I don't know you, but you might be at the moment following quite low carbohydrate diets, or you might be following quite low calorie intake diets, and it may be that you've been doing this for quite some time, and you may have seen success with this, or you might not be seeing very much success with this. And so you have to get to a point where you think, well, is this the issue? Is this all about carbohydrates? Is this all about calories? And should you be focusing on that? And like I've said, a lot of this is to do with stress as well. You've got to look at your stress and your sex hormones, and is this helping you? Are you finding that it's quite stressful doing this? And it may be that you've done this for some years now, and you're just thinking, well, I don't know if I can cope with this long term, to keep doing this forever. I've been through that myself, especially in my 20s, where I did become quite extreme with it, with what I was eating, with exercise as well, because that's another thing. I think we can go really right across into the opposite direction, and then you start getting some great results to start off with, which is what happens with me, and then it became a little bit extreme and became quite stressful. And then there were times then where I would be having all these kind of symptoms happening, and I was thinking, well, why is all this happening? Because I'm doing the right things. I'm doing the diet, I'm doing the movements, I'm doing the exercise, but why is this happening? And then I had to figure out, well, it's too stressful. It's too much to be, it's like sucking all the enjoyment out of my life. And so you have to really ask, is this going to be something that you can be doing long term? This is not saying that you should neglect diet, no. And I'm not saying neglect your carbohydrate intake and your calorie intake, because it is very important that we are looking at that. But should you be eating less to do that? That's the big thing. Are you hardly eating anything? That's what you need to be addressing. So this really isn't about just purely about what you're eating, what you're feeding yourself with in terms of food. This really is about you feeding your stress and your sex hormones. And I think when it comes to diet, the big one here is stress. You've got to be able to be eating in a certain way that's not going to be feeding, you're raising your stress hormones. For women with PCOS, one big one is cortisol. Cortisol can cause such a huge issue, especially when it comes to, your sex hormones, especially testosterone. Testosterone and cortisol are good friends. And so if that's raised, then cortisol's raised and testosterone it tends to be raised. And then also insulin is a big one for us with PCOS. And so those, cortisol, testosterone, insulin, they love each other. And if we are feeding that stress, then as in with these diets, and we're getting extremely stressed out, then we're going to be feeding those sex hormones and digestive hormones when it comes to insulin. So we really need to be focusing on those as well. And that's not just only involving food, it's involving other things as well. Now, this might seem a bit strange, but you actually might need to eat more to manage your PCOS symptoms. And you actually might need to eat more of the things that you probably think are unhealthy or, it's not probably going to be the things that you're thinking of. So especially with PCOS, it might be that you need to have more fat, and it might be that you need to eat more protein-based foods, which for some people, they might look at that and think, well, I don't want to be eating those. I don't want to be eating meat, not saying that everybody needs to be eating meat, but, if you are a meat eater, it might be a good thing that you're eating more of those kind of things. It might be that you need to eat more dairy products, which a lot of people do shy away from. It's not going to be for everybody, but it might be for you. That might be your thing. So even though we all look at diets as kind of restrictive and that we can hardly eat anything, but no, it might be that for you, you might need to be eating a lot more things so that you can manage your PCOS symptoms. So there's a lot about carbohydrates, isn't there? I think everything to do with PCOS seems to be about carbohydrates. And we're often told that we need to be lowering our carbohydrate intake. And in some cases, yeah, that is true. You do need to be lowering your carbohydrate intake, especially when it comes to what we'd call simple carbohydrates. So kind of your bread, white rice and sugar. You do need to be lowering that. But in some senses, you actually need to be eating more carbohydrates, and it's looking at what we call complex carbohydrates. And those are complex carbohydrates are things where you've got fiber with those things. So instead of looking at eating less carbohydrates and just not having any carbs whatsoever, and I've done that as well. I have done it. There was a period of time where I wouldn't eat rice. I wouldn't eat it at all, or I wouldn't eat potatoes. I wouldn't eat them at all because I was so scared to touch a carbohydrate. But it might be that you need those carbohydrates. You need them, but it's possibly what you're having them with, what you're eating those foods with. That's what you've got to be looking at, the types of carbohydrates as well. So instead of having, let's use rice as an example, if you were to have white rice, then that would be a simple carbohydrate. But brown rice, complex carbohydrate. So it's looking at the right types of carbohydrates. And I think that's, for a lot of people, that's the issue. They, instead of looking at the right type of carbohydrates, they just don't have any carbohydrates at all. And carbohydrates, it's so important that you are having carbohydrates. We need carbohydrates to survive. And it's quite sad, really, that this food group, carbohydrate, if you need a food group, you need these. They're termed as macronutrients, and macronutrients are things that we need in large quantities. We need carbohydrates in large quantities so we can survive. So you're kind of removing a group of foods that you need to survive. So instead of looking at removing carbohydrates, you need to be looking more so about looking at the right carbohydrates. What are the right carbohydrates for you to be eating? Okay. So remember, you might need to eat more. Remember, we're not all the same. We're all so different. And please stop starving yourself. It's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, like I said, I've been through it. I've had periods of time when I've done this myself. Stop starving yourself. Just learn about foods and learn about what's the right things for you to be doing. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for your body, and it's not healthy for your mind. And remember, your mind, your stress, we don't need it. We've got too much to go through as it is, with life, with life and PCOS. So give yourself a break and just stop starving yourself. You don't need to be doing that. And like I said, it might be that you need to be eating more, but look more so about eating the right types of foods. So I've been talking a lot about diet, haven't I? And this really isn't just about diet. There's so much more about this when it comes to PCOS, because it purely isn't about diet. This really is about your lifestyle, and diet is a part of that, but it's not just about your diet. So don't just focus on only on diet. Look also at your lifestyle. So I'll just go into that a little bit more. So like I said, this is about lifestyle as well. So managing your lifestyle, you'll need to be looking at your stress levels. Also looking at exercise. So, how much exercise are you doing? And when I say exercise as well, because this can be quite stressful as well. This isn't about, if you're not used to going out to going to the gym or doing intense exercise. This isn't about you now starting up and doing that straight away and doing 2 hours in the gym. But it might be a simple thing as just going out for a 10-minute walk. I mean, that's what I enjoy. I enjoy doing that, going out for a 10-20 minute walk, just kind of being out with nature for a little bit, and then not having to think about things, just enjoying the walk. So that might be your exercise. What are you doing for relaxation? Are you, it might be for you things like going for massages. It might be meditation. Do you do things like that to kind of just switch off for a little bit and just to totally relax? It might be music for you. So that's part of a lifestyle. Also looking at things that you might be doing that you feel that is helping with your stress levels. That might be alcohol, drugs, cigarettes. That's one thing that you really need to be addressing, looking at, am I substituting things with alcohol, drugs and cigarettes to help with my stress levels? Is that something that I can be doing? Is that a part of my lifestyle that I could be reducing? So that might be something that you might need to look into. And then what's your work, your life balance like? So is work stressful? Is it possible that you could be changing your career or changing your work? Does that play a big part of it? Maybe you've noticed that when work gets very stressful, then your PCOS symptoms get worse. That has been something for me in the past. Also looking at your, the work-life balance as well. Is there things that you can be doing with that where, you can maybe reduce some hours at work so that you can have more time so you can relax, maybe do exercises as well. Just, is there something that you can do in that field as well when it comes to lifestyle and stress? And so recommendations that you could possibly try. So gym, it might be that you might look at going to the gym and maybe seeing if you can set up some sort of routine with that. Music might be your thing, is for me, big thing for me. Art, if that's something that you're into, could you be doing something like that just to lower the stress levels? Dance, yoga, big one for me. For the success, I would say for me has been looking at diet and nutrition, but also using yoga as a form of movement and to help with meditation and relaxation. I find that's quite a big thing for me. So, look at exercises where that can help with those. It might be Tai Chi, it could be Pilates or something for you. Things like that can help. Going out for walks might be your thing. Therapies, massage, meditation. Look at talking therapies as well, because it might be that there's something there where you need to be possibly offloading things to help with your PCOS symptoms. Some of these things could be quite deep rooted, and that might be an issue for you as well. So look at things like that. Like I've said earlier, look at your recreational activities like your alcohol, your drugs, cigarettes. Can that be something that you could be looking at? Is it possible that you could be talking to somebody in the medical field that could possibly help you with those types of things? And yeah, look at your job as well. Sometimes your job can be quite a huge trigger. So is that something that you could be looking at? And this isn't to say that you need to be changing all of this in one go, because this is a lot, isn't it? So maybe look at one thing in your life. You could be doing the diet and the nutrition kind of things, but also look at other things in your life and just think, well, is there something that I could cut back on? Could that be looking at my alcohol intake and seeing if I can work with that? And maybe it might be just that, and you work on that alongside the dietary sort of stuff, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself. You just don't want to be doing too much where then that becomes added stress as well. But yeah, it's just to point out the fact that this isn't just about cutting down on your carbohydrates or eating less food. We do need to be addressing what's going on in your lifestyle. Is that also having an impact? Because it's no good just like looking at your diet and changing your diet when these other things are going on as well, where you might need that time to just distress. So when you've come back from work, could you do a bit of meditation? I'm not saying that meditation is going to be the thing for you, but could you be doing things that can just balance that off? Because for a lot of us, we need to work. We need to do life, don't we? But looking at those things that could possibly help just to give you a bit of a release afterwards. So, for me, when I started on this road with nutrition and yoga as well, I was doing I had quite a stressful job, and for me, doing yoga in the mornings, I just noticed a huge difference where I could then go to work and I just felt so much more calm. Things that I was reacting to previously, I would have reacted to previously, I wasn't reacting to them as much. So you just might need to find something where you can do that, and find pockets throughout the day where you can just give yourself some time just to relax as well. So yes, so I hope this video has been really helpful for you. I hope that's really helped. It might be that this has been something you've been thinking about, so I hope that this has helped you. If you are interested in learning more, then I have courses that might be able to help you. I've put links to those courses in the description, and if you would like to be getting more of these types of things, and about diet, nutrients and supplements, then please follow and subscribe so you can get more like this. Okay, so thanks for your time. Okay, bye bye.